So I'm going to have I equals 0, my initialization, while I update I in the loop, I do plus plus I, that increases the value of I by 1. So it starts at I equals 0, add 1 to it, come back around the loop again, if I is 1, print out 1, come back around the loop again, keep increasing this every time. So we run that, we get the number 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The other thing we did was the print repeat function. So that was just a function where I can say repeat and give it a string to print and give it a number of times to print it. And then we do basically the same shape of a while loop here. We have I set to 0 while I is less than the number of times instead of just 10. Instead of printing out I itself, we print out the arguments of the function, and then we increase our I variable. So we get high 3 times from this while loop. And if we call the function with a different thing, if I went down to line 10, changed it to by and 7, we should see by printed out 7 times, and there we go. Everybody get that going first. Make sure you balance your braces. If you put your cursor over a brace or right after a brace, REPL will kind of draw a box around the one that it matches. So when I click on this one, it draws the box around this. If I click on this one, it draws the box around this. If I click on the bottom one, it draws the box around the main. So if you click on a brace and it matches something that it shouldn't be, or it looks weird, or it doesn't match anything, then you know you have a problem. If I click on the top brace in main and it doesn't draw a box around the last brace in my program, then I know that I messed up. So today we're going to talk about another form of loop, which is the for loop. There's 3 parts to our loops. There's the initialization, the condition, and the update. All the loops are going to kind of have this shape to it. So look at this loop and we compare it to this loop, we can see that they look similar. You have I equals 0, you have some condition, and then you have some update at the bottom. If I was counting down from 10, the condition and the update would look different, but we'd still have those parts. We can label those here as initialization, condition, and update. And remember, our update always has to be something that will eventually change the loop condition. Here, initialization is I equals 0, I is less than num is our condition, and then down here is our update. This pattern is so common, especially with like counting with I equals 0 up to some number, that we have a shorthand for it, and that is the for loop. And there's 2 different kinds of for loops. We're just going to talk about one of them this week. A for loop has these same 3 parts, but they're all on the line with it instead of being spread out like up here for the initialization, here's the condition, and then the update is somewhere inside the loop. So I'm going to write a for loop that does the exact same thing that this while loop does. I'm going to comment out the existing while loop, I'm going to write it above it. So I use for as my first keyword, and I put my initialization followed by a semicolon. So what's my initialization here? In this while loop, int I is equal to 0. So I say int I equals 0, semicolon. Then I put my condition. What's my condition? I less than 10. That's my condition. And then what's my update? Plus plus I. No semicolon after the plus plus I, and then a break. And then in here I put the loop body. System.out.println, and I stick an I in there. Comments out the rest of it. If I run this now, I should see the same exact thing, 0 through 9. It's shorter. At first when you look at this, it's a little confusing because you see the I equals 0, the I is less than 10, the plus plus I, and it's not that intuitive where what happens. But when you get used to this syntax, it's a lot easier to look at a for loop and understand what the loop is doing. The int I equals 0 happens once at the beginning of the loop. I is less than 10 happens before we enter the loop each time, but this plus plus I only happens at the end of the loop. So we won't do this the first time we're entering. We do it at the bottom. It is exactly the same as this while loop down here. The I equals 0 happens once at the beginning, the I is less than 10 happens every time we're at the start, and the plus plus I happens every time we're at the end. Let me do this way. I is less than 5. So let's walk through this and see how it. Where do we start running our program? There, we always start inside the main function. What's the next thing we do? So we're on line 10, and that's the for loop. Just like the while loop, what's the first thing we do? When we're doing our while loop, what's the first thing we do before we start looping? We have to do some initial setup first. This part here, int I equals 0, is the initialization that we need, some initial setup for our loop. So before we start doing the loop at all, we have this thing we do one time. We do int I equals 0. So now we have I is 0. After that, we can check the condition. So we do I equals 0, we say I is less than 5. True or false? True. I is less than 5 because I is 0. We don't do this yet. We only do this at the end of the loop. So we have true on there. We don't do plus plus I yet. We print out 0 because I is 0. What do we have to do at the end of the loop? What do we have to do at the end of our while loop? It's our update step. So what's our update step here? So we add 1 to I, so I is going to be 1. Right, so we do the plus plus I because we were at the end of the loop. We got I is 1. Then we check condition again. 1 is less than 5. That's true. We come back into the loop and we print out 1. What do we do at the end of our loop? We printed out 1, then we're at the end of the loop. So we do the plus plus I, our update step. Now we have I is what? 2. Then what? Before we print out 2, what do we have to do? We hit the end of the loop. We added 1 to I. We got I to 2. And then we check the condition again. It's true. So we go back into the loop. We're going to print out what? We add 1 to I, which gives us what? And then what we do? I is less than 5, which is 3 is less than 5 is true. What happens next? What's this going to print? 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. What happens after we print out 3? What's the update step? And that gives us what happens after that. We added 1 to I was 3, plus plus I, and we got 4. What's the condition checking? I is, and what is I right now? 4. So we have 4 less than 5. Yes, that's true. Prints 4. So we get 5. 5 less than 5 is false. We're done. So we come back up here. We have I is equal to 5. We check 5 less than 5. 5 less than 5 is false, so we're done with our loop. The steps here are the exact same steps that happen in the while loop. The for loop is more a convenience for us. So it looks kind of funky, but when you're reading code, it's a lot easier to understand what a for loop does. When you see a while loop, it's usually something like what we did with the bank account balance example, where you're just redoing something until more like a stranger condition is met. When you have a for loop, it's something that is going to run a fixed number of times. Here I'm saying I want this to run 5 times, even if I was a variable, like if I had I is less than num. Still looking at this and I can say, okay, so this is a loop that does something num times. It's just easy to recognize. copy this, and then I want you to write a for loop that counts like the while loop we did in the other class from 10 down to 1. Instead of going from 0 to 10 or 0 to 5, go from 10 down to 1. Yeah, you're going to write another for loop. Every time you have a slash star, you have to have a star slash to close it out. That guy at the bottom right there on line 21. Okay, so let's see what this looks like. I'm going to add a second for loop here, so I'll move that slash star up there just to comment out the one I have already. I'll say for. What's my initial condition here? Okay, what's my condition? Okay, and what's my update? So you have minus I, we do system.out.println I, and then we run this, and we get our count down eventually. Start at 10, we check our condition, 10 is greater than 0 is true, we print 10, we subtract 1 from I, 9 is greater than 0, we print 9, we subtract 1, we get 8, 8 is greater than 0, print 8, etc., until eventually we print out 1, we subtract 1 from that, we get 0, 0 greater than 0 is false, so we exit the loop. Your print repeat function you shouldn't have changed if you did change it, because your next exercise is going to be to take print repeat and switch it from using a while loop to using a for loop instead. You're going to modify print repeat, so it's going to do the same thing as it did before, but instead of doing a while loop, it's going to use a for loop. Yeah, so you're going to modify this function here. So this whole thing, you're going to switch to be a for loop instead of a while loop. So the I equals 0, I is less than num is because we're doing something num times. We're just counting from 0 to num. For loop looks like this. For, initialization, condition, update. So you identify what those are in the while loop, and then you put them into this for loop format. So we're writing a for loop inside of print repeat. It means we have to identify the 3 things that our loop is doing. What are the 3 things that our loop has? We know we're going to have to write for, and then we need the 3 things. What is the initialization that we have here? Int I equals 0. Semicolon, good. Austin, what happens after that? What's our condition? What's less than num? I is less than num. We got that from right here. Took that exact thing and shoved it up there. Plus I. We took that from the bottom of our while loop. You can just copy paste the 3 things, and then you have the for loop. And all we have to do now is grab that system.out.println and put it in here instead. Comments. We get the same result we got from the while loop. Our initialization, int I equals 0. Then we check 0 against num. If we passed in a 3 here, 0 is less than 3. Then we enter our loop. We print out the string, which is high. We add 1 to that I. Come back around. I is less than num. Since I is 1 now, we print out string again. Add 1 to I. I is less than num. I is 2 now, so we print out I again. And then we come back around. Add 1 to I. I is 3. 3 is less than num is false. So we're done. Every time we get to the bottom of the loop, we run the update step, and then we check the condition again. So these for loops and these while loops can function exactly the same. So I'm going to turn on just my code that goes I equals 0, I is less than 10 plus I. Turns out the numbers from 0 to 9. What I would like you guys to see if you can do is change this loop, modify it so that instead of printing out 0 through 9, it prints out only the even numbers. So 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. We're taking this loop where we go from 0 to 10, and we're changing it so that instead of printing out 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 9, we're just printing out 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. So just the even numbers now. So we're skipping 1, we're skipping 3, we're skipping 5. There's more than one way to do this, the less efficient way. We can use an if to check even, and if it is, then print it. So you can check that by doing I mod 2 equals 0. Divide it by 2 if there's a remainder, and it's not even, and we get the right answer. There's a simpler way. If instead of just incrementing I by 1 each step, we add 2 to it each step, we'll have the same result. We'll start at 0. When we hit the bottom of our loop, we'll do I plus equals 2, which goes from 0 to 2. And every time we get to the bottom, we just do that instead. So all you need to do is change the plus to a plus equals 2. Our updates aren't limited to just plus and minus. Our update step can be anything. It can be I equals and then calling another function. Uncommon, but you can do it. Alright, so the next thing, I would like you to write a function. I'm going to write the header for you, void print num, and I'm going to give you an int max. I want you to just take this loop with a plus instead of a plus equals 2. If I do plus I, I'm going to take this loop, I'm going to put it in here. I want you to change this, so if I say print num 10, it prints 0 through 9, up to and not including 10. If I say print nums 20, I get 0 all the way up to 19. So use this map here. Don't just print up to 10 anymore. How do you change this to make it do that? Here, I'm going to give you an argument. So here I'm giving it 10. So that one should print 0 through 9, up to and not including 10. Then when I say 20, it should print 0 through 19. So you're going to start here, and you're just going to adjust this very small tweak. Alright, the only change you needed to make here to make this work was to change 10 to max. So instead of being fixed 10, it's whatever is passed in here. So when I say print nums 10, the 10 comes up here and goes into max. When I say print nums 20, the 20 goes from here and goes into max and runs the function. I get 0 through 9 here, and then below that I get 0 through 19. And then I get the output from this other loop down here. If you have this now, take another argument step, meaning if I say I want to print 0 through 10 with a step of 2, that's going to be the even number. So I'll print 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. You're not going to add another for loop. You're going to modify the one that's already there. This will be 0, 3, 6, 9. So the step size now, all I got to do is change my update. I plus equals step. So I get my 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 here for my first call, and then I get my 0, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 for my second call. The last thing you can do here is to put in a min, max, and step. So instead of 0 to 10, I can say give me 4 through 10 with a step size of 2, and I can say give me 9 through 20 with a step size of 3. Change the condition for the max, change the update for the step size. There's only one more thing we might have to change here. Since I'm saying 4 now, I don't want to see 0 or 2 because those are too low, and likewise here, I'm starting at 9. Int I equals min, and now we go from from the minimum to the maximum. All right, everybody, have a great weekend.